In this video, I'm going to try to explain to you why experience in your 20s and 30s is like the most valuable thing you could try to attain as you work. So, we talked about working for relationships. Now, I want you to understand that most millionaires truly prioritize getting the experience, getting the reps in their 20s and 30s. And I'm going to walk you through a framework that shows you exactly what to think about and focus on. So when you're working, you always have to remind yourself that you don't want to wait for the opportunity to present itself to be ready. And wait, because you guys know I love my acronyms, wait could be used in W, which is working for free, in A, which is acting fast, in I, which is innovating often, and in T, which is trying and failing regularly. If you put those four letters together and you follow that framework, then you'll get the experience that you need in your early 20s, mid to early 30s, and that will propel you forward in the future. So let's talk about working for free and why you would do that. And when I say working for free, I don't mean that you can't ever be compensated for the work you do. But what I do mean is you have to make sure that you're working more hours than you're being paid for. And that doesn't always look like showing up at a job and spending more hours at that job. What that means is you're doing a lot of work behind the scenes to get way more efficient, way more comparable, way more educated on the career or the path or the field that you're in that nobody else sees, but it's going to make you so much more of a valuable asset to your employer. Or if you're an entrepreneur, it's going to give you a leg up ahead of your competition. So when you think about working for free, if you're young, that might be making sure you sign up for an internship, even if it's not paid. So, for example, my wife is in the fashion industry, and our time in New York, it was almost an eye-opening experience when you see how much she could learn from interning with other really prominent fashion designers or working with other people on the production side or on the creative side and figuring out exactly what real fashion business looked like as opposed to what you learn in textbooks. And that can be used in so many other layers. I think about myself and I think about all the time and the hours and the energy that I spent that I wasn't being paid for working in finance within corporate America because I had to get on YouTube University and learn the techniques to be better at Excel. I had to learn and work and shadow people that may have been in my office or may have just been doing business at a high level outside of my office to really grasp some of the concepts that everybody within business that wants to operate at a high level needs to learn. And in doing those things, it allowed me to be so much more prepared when the meeting came. It allowed me to be so much more of a value add when people were having strategic conversations in the office. And this was stuff that I was not being paid for, but it helped propel me to that next promotion and to that next position. And in turn, I made way more money in the future because of my willingness to work and to sacrifice and to dedicate time, energy, effort, and resources in a space where I wasn't being paid directly for that energy put in. So W is working for free. Remember that. Don't forget it. A, acting fast. I can't stress enough how important it will be to make decisions quickly and move. Most of the time, people get stuck in this paralysis analysis point of view. They want to read up on something. They want to take another course. They want to do a little bit more practice. They want to paper trade if you're thinking about people trading in the stock market. And my advice is fail fast. And in order to do that, you got to act fast. So that means that you need to, take action as soon as you get the idea while it's still hot, while it's still something that's at the top of your mind. Personal example for me is when I did get into real estate, instead of spending a bunch of time reading book after book after book, listening to podcast after podcast after podcast, I did do a lot of that in my spare time, but I know people that are still doing research on their first deal right now. And what I did instead of that was I immediately signed up for a meetup. This was in the New York area. And that allowed me to really go touch base with people who were doing this thing, who were investing, who were actively involved in deals, talk to them, learn from them, study what they were doing. That was the first step. Second step was I immediately got with some people from these meetups and said, hey, I don't have that much experience. I was honest about it, but I want to shadow you. I want to work with you. And if there's a small deal, I'm willing to put up some of my money, even if it's not that much, just to be a part of the deal so I can see how this thing works. So within 6 months, I was in my first deal as opposed to waiting years and years and years to be able to feel comfortable to dive in. And because of that, I learned so much faster. In turn, I made so much more money than I would have if I had just played the background and tried to study and learn on my own without taking action. So take action fast, sign up for the meeting, volunteer for the project at work. The most important thing that you can do is put yourself out there and get things done so that even if you're doing them wrong, you can very quickly learn what the right way to do things is. So that's the A, act fast. The I is innovate. Innovate often. And why does this matter? When you're trying to get this experience, and you're working through like trying to understand how to do it, whether it's the right way or the wrong way, you'll learn as you start to experience these things in a much faster pace. And the next layer to that is once you start to see how the process works, once you start to understand how the mechanics of a deal being put together work, or how the mechanics of a real estate opportunity works, whether that's a fix and flip or buy and hold, or once you understand how the fashion business works or the finance business works, or whatever the space may be in between, then you ask yourself, how much more experience could I get if I go off the beaten path and get off script and start to try my own methods and strategies? And that's where innovation comes in. So for me, if I'm in corporate financial planning and analysis, that might look similar to saying, okay, I got to a new company. I understand the process that they use to do their month-end reporting. I understand how long it takes. I'm going to spend a bunch of time in my spare time outside of work actually figuring out a more efficient way to do this. That might be looking up videos on how to run macros and speed up the process. That might be understanding what new software tools are out that might be free or relatively cheap that I can start to practice and work on and innovate. And then being able to develop a new process or a new system or a new strategy that will make the time shorter or make the profit higher or whatever it is that is like a key performance indicator in your field, enhancing that indicator in a shorter amount of time and presenting that to either your boss or your boss's boss, or using that as an opportunity to say, hey, I've been working so hard in the background to get as much experience as possible in this space that now I think I found a better way to do it, a more efficient way to do it, and putting that out there, presenting that, and being one of the people that is regularly looking for new ideas and new growth patterns. That innovation and that mindset that leads you to want to continue to improve upon a process will be so huge for you, not only just in your development, but also in your ability to get recognized and move through the ranks faster. So keep that in mind. Make sure you're innovating regularly and always look to break a process. One of Meta's core principles is like break things. And the reason why that's so important for a big tech company is because they want to be on the the ground floor of any new innovation that comes. And in order to get there, they have to have that mentality of I'm always looking to improve upon what's already there, even if I'm the one who designed the initial phase of it. So innovate is the third step, and then try, which is T, try and be willing to fail as many times as need be to be successful. So if you think about some of the most successful people in history. You've got your Walt Disney's of the world. You got Henry Ford. You even got Donald Trump, for those of you who rock with Donald Trump like that. One thing that keeps all these people connected, whether you know it or not, is they've all declared for bankruptcy. And that in and of itself is something that you can look at as their willingness to fail at business or fail at creative arts or fail at money management because they were moving, they were taking action, and they also understood that in order to truly be successful, you got to be willing to do something wrong or do something poorly until you get to the point where you can do it right. So when they make these moves and make these calculated risks and take these chances, yes, they have the opportunity to fail, which many of them have, but because they were trying so many things over and over and over, they learned what not to do. And by learning what not to do, now you fully understand what to do. I'll give you an example from my own life, kind of leaving corporate America aside and focusing back in on the real estate aspect of things. For me, in my early 20s, early 30s, I made a ton of money doing real estate fix and flips. And I also lost a ton of money doing real estate fix and flips. And I will tell you this, my first deal, I probably made $20,000 all in after all the renovations had happened and the property got sold. Second deal made 10,000. Third deal made like 12,000. So I'm in my mid 20s going crazy. Like I figured it out. But those successes were fool's gold. And it wasn't until my sixth deal lost all of the money that I had made over my first several deals that I realized what I was doing wrong. I realized why I lost all that money because I wasn't following up with the contractors, because I wasn't making it a priority to understand all of the material costs, because I wasn't going in with the mindset that I'm going to run this like an efficient business instead of being so hands off. I would have never learned how to properly do a real estate fix and flip deal if I hadn't taken those chances and tried and tried and tried and actually been met with failure, because some of the early success masked the messages and the lessons that I should have been learning. So it wasn't until I failed that then I really understood what I should be focused on when I'm working on a deal. And now in the future, whenever I dive back into real estate, I feel confident that I could put together $1 million property flip because I know all of the things that can go wrong because they have gone wrong. And that experience is what guides me to be able to have that confidence for investments in the future. So just like with any of you, you have to be willing to put yourself out there. I'll give you an example when it comes to sports. All of you sports fanatics out there, anybody who's played football, you know that no matter how many books you read on football, no matter how many videos you watch of other people playing football, until you put those pads on and until you step on that field and until you run through the middle and get stood up at the line of scrimmage by a linebacker who wants to take your head off and felt that pain, you don't know how to play football. And it's the same way in business. It's the same way in corporate America. You got to get the reps in. And in order to get the reps in, you have to be willing to work for free. You have to be willing to act fast. You have to be willing to innovate regularly. And you got to be okay trying and failing. So you get those reps in your early 20s and early 30s, you get that experience, and that is what will propel you to make millions in the future potentially, and especially in your current state, moving up to different leadership ranks and different opportunities as people think of you as someone who is an expert in your field because of that experience you got in a short amount of time. I hope that this is helpful. Remember, don't wait for your progress, but always, always, always be thinking about what you can do in your spare time to advance in your career. I love you guys. I'll talk to you soon.